Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of WLOX's Expert Alert. This is where we have guests in from the Gulf Coast and different businesses talking about things that can, be beneficial to you and your family. We've had for the last several months, we've had some folks from Bradford O'Keefe in studio with us, and this morning we have Tim Jones and Casey McMurray, who are here with us this morning. They are family services pre-need counselors with Bradford O'Keefe, something that mentioned before that I did briefly in Nashville several years ago. So I know the importance of this, but let's talk a little bit first about you individually. Kay, start out with ladies first. Give me a little background about yourself.
All right, I'm born and raised in Biloxi, have been here all of my life, have two grown daughters. I was in retail management for 32 years with JCPenney, and just love the Gulf Coast. I love helping families, and
you just chose to go to work with them, Bradford O'Keefe.
I've known them all of my life, and great family.
Okay.
Absolutely great family.
Tim, give me a little bit of background about yourself, if you would.
Okay, I was born and raised in Gulfport, Mississippi, and I lived there for most of my life. I did leave for about 15 years, and I spent some time up in the Nashville area living up there as well. But I'm very fortunate that both my mom and dad are still alive and well down here on the coast. So about 7 years ago, we chose to move back here to be a little closer to them, to help them out. And I knew the O'Keefes from way back before I ever went to Tennessee, so I approached them, and they hired me, and so here I am.
Well, give us a little bit of background, if you would, again, of Bradford O'Keefe. They've been around for 150 plus years.
Absolutely. Bradford O'Keefe is the oldest and largest funeral home on the Gulf Coast. They have been around for 156 years. It was started in 1865. They're the only funeral home on the coast that's been owned by the same family that whole time, 6 generations so far. And we have 6 funeral home locations. 2 of them are in Gulfport, 2 are in Biloxi. We have 1 in Ocean Springs and 1 in Van Cleve. And we also own 2 cemeteries, and Bradford O'Keefe, Jim, opened the very first crematory in the state of Mississippi back in the 70s.
Oh, wow.
So,
and more people are actually turning towards cremation nowadays, so that's a big thing. Why pre-need? And talk about the importance of pre-need, if you would.
Okay. Pre-need, you are able to put down your final wishes. Everything, we get very detailed. It's saving the family peace of mind. There's no bickering. You know exactly what you want, and so does the family. We get everything down, and so all we have to do is meet with the family and decide on time and date.
That's right. All right. And
makes it very easy.
And it is an important thing, isn't it, Tim, to plan it out ahead of time?
Absolutely. I mean, it's not a very pleasant subject to talk about, but let's face it, none of us are going to be here forever.
No.
We're all in that line. We just don't know where we are in that line, and we know that that line is getting shorter every day. So when we talk about pre-planning, the lack of pre-planning has hit so many families very hard on the worst day of their life, and there's so many things that they may not have realized that had to be done, and they wished that the individual had pre-planned. So there's usually 100 different decisions and choices to make when someone passes away, and no pre-planning has been done. But when the pre-planning has been done, it lifts a huge emotional burden and financial burden off of the loving family members.
I saw the greatest thing on Facebook this morning. It said that hug someone and tell someone that you love them the day before you die. And they said, well, you don't know when you're going to die. I said, exactly. You don't know, so be sure every day that you tell someone, because again, it is just much of a burden. I remember when I did pre-need up in Nashville before you were up there, the burdens that it does lift off the family, because as you were saying, Kay, that they can decide. I can go in there and say, I want this, this, and this.
Yes.
And that way, if you wait until it's at need, when the person has always passed and there's no plans that have been made, then you could have family bickering. No, I want this. I think they would have wanted this, and this is. Whereas you can say, this is what I want, and there's a savings to doing it ahead of time.
Absolutely. If you wait, it's emotional spending, and it's and it's very, very hard. There are questions that you may not know, where parents were born, things like that. It's
And you mentioned emotional spending. I knew a friend of mine years ago, that their parents had passed, or the father, I believe it was the father, had passed. And this wasn't down here, but they went to the funeral home and they said, well, if you love them, you get this casket for them. But if you really, really love them, you'll get this. It's like they're going in the ground. Why do you want to play with my emotions with something like that?
yeah, it makes it very, very hard.
And then and a lot of people don't know there are so many different options when it comes to making your final plans. Aren't there, Tim?
Exactly. There's the traditional burial, there's traditional cremations, there's memorial cremations, there's direct cremations, so many different choices that people don't realize that are available. And we sit down and explain those choices to the people, whether they are at the funeral home or at their home. Some people don't realize that they don't have to come to the funeral home to pre-plan. Most of the people that we meet with and help, we go to their home at their convenience, and the whole process takes maybe an hour, and then it's all done.
They feel more comfortable that way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they
You
don't
meet
feel.
them where they are.
Yes. And again, the different types of options that they have. And there's a lot of things that they don't realize that, that are involved when it does come to planning a funeral, that you have to plan ahead, like what we were talking a while ago. There's the opening and closing. You may not know what the opening and closing is, but you have to pay someone to dig the last interment, the grave or whatever, and then to fill it back up again. So there's so many different, and you don't want that as a surprise whenever you go to have to plan it at need. Well, I didn't have to pay for that. I didn't know I was going to have to do that. So everything is laid out ahead of time for them.
That's
Right.
right. And you mentioned costs. Some people don't realize that historically funeral costs have doubled every 10 to 12 years. So when you look at an average traditional burial today, usually ranges in the $10,000 to $15,000 range. 10 to 12 years from now, you double that, and then 10 or 12 years later, it doubles again. That can add up to quite a bit. But when someone takes the initiative to prearrange, they have the unique opportunity to lock in the cost at what it is now, saving the family members
And it may
thousands.
be 20 or 30 years before you, or
That's
even
right.
more before you need that.
Hopefully so.
But again, you've got the prices locked in.
That's exactly right.
You can go in and, if you do the cremation thing, you can go in and pick out the urn that you like. I like that one. It's got fish and all this stuff on it. And there's so many choices that I know that you do have that they can look at and, bring it up on a catalog or online to choose from.
That's exactly right.
Sure. Another thing that some people don't consider is, what if they're not here when that time comes? What if they're visiting relatives in Nashville or somewhere like that? We can show people how they can save their families the expenses of transporting the body back here at the time of need through our out-of-area protection.
Justin and Jules have talked about that in the
Yes,
past as
our
well, because
out-of-area
people
protection.
think about that. If you're out of the area, what happens if if me or my loved one passes away to get me back here? Is there something extra, or is that something that is taken care of?
We help them take care of that ahead of time, because if they don't, again, that can run into thousands of dollars.
And again, as you said, whenever you're able to sit down there and talk to them ahead of time, you can say, well, you have this and this and this and this. So that way, when it's at need, they're like, oh, I didn't know. It's full of surprises, so to speak.
Right.
And then it can run into a lot more money. And then they come in. What if they come in and say, oh, I've got I've got life insurance, something like that.
Well, life insurance, is an alternative, but sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. And we'll explain to them why sometimes it doesn't. And a life insurance policy cannot lock in the funeral cost. Only a funeral policy can do that. It's the only one that comes with an itemized statement of goods and services, locking in everything that they selected at the time that they pre-planned.
And I think one of the greatest things that I always remembered, and when I would pitch, do the sales thing, when I was doing that, is life insurance is for the living.
Yes.
Life insurance is for the living, for after you're gone, that they have that to fall back on, that they don't have to worry about that. So that's why you plan it ahead of time now and lock in those savings.
And you can pay for it monthly, 3, 5, 10, 20 years, or you can pay for it all at once.
And
it's locked in.
And again, it gives them much more peace of mind. As you said, that you've got it planned, you go down or give them a call. Numbers on your screen right there. You can give them a call, 875-5097. Set up an appointment for someone to come out and talk to them and show them how easy it is and how more economical it is and how much peace of mind that you get when you plan it ahead of time.
Absolutely.
So definitely. Kay, Tim, thank you so much for being on the show today and sharing this great information with us.
Thank you,
if you'd like to find out some more information, call the number there on your screen for Bradford O'Keefe Funeral Homes here on the Gulf Coast.
If you have a question for any of our experts, go to WLOX.com and click on Expert Alert. For a list of any of our upcoming experts, go to WLOX.com and click on Expert Alert.